we'll get started. I'll call the meeting to order. If you could please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome to the August 1st, 2019 Town of Riverhead Planning Board meeting. First item on the agenda tonight, discussion item for Mary Ellen Real Estate, Riverhead Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jefferson Murphy, Building and Planning Administrator for the record. This is an ongoing continuation of construction of a proposed Riverhead Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram dealership on County Road 58. It's where the former batting cage miniature golf facility was located. That's now been defunct for a number of years. There's currently a dealership there now on a small scale. The application for you would demolish all the existing structures, the batting cages and the buildings, and replace it with a new 31,140 square foot new two-story dealership. We've had a public hearing on the application already. The business before you this evening, you have a resolution later on in the agenda. One is to claim lead agency pursuant to SECRA. The 30-day coordination period was held. No other agencies expressed a desire to be lead agency, so you need a resolution to declare yourself as lead agency. The second item that's within the body of the same resolution, staff is recommending the planning board issue a negative declaration pursuant to SECRA, finding that there be no adverse environmental impacts. On the agenda for the zoning board next Thursday night is a public hearing. They needed to get a variance, and before they can render a decision on it, they need SECRA to be a determination from this board. So you have a recommendation from staff this evening, and along with the resolution, to issue that negative declaration. The applicant can then get the variance from the zoning board, and then come back here for further deliberation and then a decision. That's it.
Okay. There's no other changes that?
No. We had to wait for the 30 days to conclude. No changes were made to the application since that time. There might be some cleanups, that sort of thing from Karen when we come back after the zoning board decision. But that's it.
Okay. I was surprised to see you, because I thought we had to discuss a few things. Normally, we don't bring you back for this action, do we?
Well, I stopped in the building department today, and they said, come, you might make the question.
Okay. No, we'll vote on it under resolutions. I don't think
Thank you
there's
very
an
much.
issue. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is Calverton Solar Energy Center, Nextera.
No problem.
Okay, just everyone's names for the record, please.
Of course.
I'll start over here. Hi, William Bohr, with NextEra Energy, Project Manager for Environmental Services.
Christopher Corrado, National Grid. We're partners with NextEra on the project.
Michael Dowling, NextEra Energy, I'm the project director on the project.
Stephen Lo Squadro, attorney for the applicant.
Prescott Hartshorn with National Grid.
Okay, so, National Grid. So National Grid's partnering with Nextera on this project?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Greg.
All right, so the planning department has received and reviewed a special permit and site plan application which seeks to construct a 22.9 megawatt commercial solar energy production facility consisting of underground transmission lines, solar collection panels, a 34.5 to 138 kilovolt transformer, fencing, landscaping, road, grading, and drainage improvements on 2 parcels in Calverton located within the Industrial C zoning use district. Pursuant to SECRA, the action has been determined to be a type 1. The town board has requested lead agency. Letter was sent out on June 6th to involved agencies requesting that. And the town board will pass a resolution to assume lead agency. Prior to any secret determination being made, whether positive or negative declaration, there are a number of issues in my staff report detailing what needs to be addressed prior to that determination being made. The site of the proposed solar farm is on 2 parcels of industrially zoned land in the vicinity of Edwards Avenue and River Road in Calverton. The first parcel, identified as tax map number 600-137-1-2.1, is an 82.48 acre parcel located at 179 Edwards Avenue and is the current site of Long Island Sports Park Outdoor Recreational Facility. That site, as you recall, underwent a site plan review from the planning board between 2016 and 2018, which established its use as an outdoor recreational facility. Parcel 2, identified as the western parcel throughout the report, identified as tax map number 600-136-1-1, is a 115.1 acre parcel located on the north side of River Road. The second parcel is classified on the town tax rolls as property class 120, which is field crops. However, it is unclear if the subject property is presently being farmed. And it is also noted that, verified with the assessor's office, the parcel is not currently listed in any New York State Ag and Market District programs. The execution of the site plan will require an easement agreement between the applicant and the town of Riverhead for the installation of an electrical underground connection line, which connects the western side of Edwards Avenue in order to connect to the existing LIPA substation on the eastern side of Edwards Avenue. To date, the site plan does not include an underground utility profile underneath Edwards Avenue in order to identify potential underground utility conflicts. The applicant did just submit electronically. I haven't had a chance to review it yet, but I believe their resubmission does include an underground utility profile, and I'll have to review that prior to any secret determination being made. There is also a paper street in between the 2 parcels, which is known as Canoe Lake Drive. Ownership of this road must be determined. If it's found to be a town-owned paper street, then an additional easement agreement would be required between the town and the applicant, as the underground electrical connection line is shown to cross underneath this area. Again, ownership of this area must be determined prior to a secret determination being made on either the special permit or the site plan. In terms of New York State DEC, the application does not propose any land disturbance within any DEC wetland jurisdictional areas or town CAC wetland areas. It is noted, however, that the southern portion of both parcels is located within the New York State DEC Wild Scenic Recreational Rivers area, and that's classified as a recreation zone. Coordination with the DEC will be handled through the secret process to ensure comments are received and considered during the special permanent site plan review process. In terms of the Pine Barrens, the property is located within the compatible growth area, and the application does not propose any clearing on the western parcel in order to facilitate the installation of the solar farm, and there is minimal tree removal proposed on the eastern parcel, which is the Long Island Sports Park. The clearing that they are proposing on the eastern parcel consists of mainly removing ornamental vegetation around the clubhouse and the removal of approximately 12 individual trees on the front 9 of the golf course near the entrance to the property. On page 4 of the staff report, I just kind of identified where these individual trees are located. On the western parcel, on the northwestern corner of the Calverton Links property, it appears that the proposed underground electrical connection line would run through a swath of vegetation. Staff recommends that the location of this underground electrical connection line be moved in order to save that swath of trees. The application will be referred to the Pine Barrens Commission throughout the secret review process, and comments will be considered in order to gauge the compatibility of the proposed use with the Pine Barrens compatible growth area. A portion of the western parcel is adjacent to the EPCAL bike trail. Now, on the western parcel, there is a large swath of vegetation. They're not proposing any clearing in this area. So this area of vegetation would provide an effective effective vegetative buffer from any view sheds from the EPCAL bike trail. It is noted that on the western parcel, there is an existing dilapidated residence, which on page 6 of my staff report, I took a picture of that residence. Review of town building department records does not identify any COs or LPEUs for this structure. The application does not propose to remove this structure at this time. However, based on the condition of the building, it seems as though it would be a safety liability for both the property owner and would likely fall under a blighted property code if it was to be reviewed by the...
Greg, is it on River Road,
Yes, sir.
basically?
Yes, that picture was taken from River Road.
I didn't, it wasn't further in, further in the property?
No, I took that from the road. So yeah, as I said, the house would probably fall under a blighted property if it was reviewed by code enforcement. There are a number of criteria, the use regulations, A through, I believe it's S. I'll touch on just a number of the more important issues. The height of the solar panels maximum is 8 feet, and they are proposed at a height of 8 feet. All of the solar farms will be surrounded by an 8-foot high chain link fence, black vinyl coated. The site plan does propose the minimum required 25-foot vegetative buffers between commercial properties. There were a couple of sections on it where the vegetative buffer was only 25 feet along roadways where it's required to be 50. That's something that the applicant's gonna need to address through revisions. It is noted that the applicant does not propose any vegetative buffers between the solar farms and the New York State DEC-owned parcel containing Canoe Lake. However, based on the fact that Canoe Lake will never be developed, it doesn't seem appropriate or necessary that they would need to install additional vegetation to screen it from the DEC wetland. The applicant did provide a glint and glare analysis prepared by Capital Aerospace Group to analyze the reflective glare towards any habitable buildings and structures. It is noted that the report stated that the air park is an uncontrolled airport, and the analysis did not consider glint and glare on the air control tower. Staff recommends that the glint and glare analysis should be updated to demonstrate that the solar farm, what, if any, impacts it would have on the tower in the event that the tower is ever manned in the future. Again, all the on-site transmission lines are being proposed underground. It is noted that the running of the underground transmission line does appear to cross over what I call the back nine of the Calverton Links property. It doesn't appear as though we've received an owner's endorsement for this parcel, but the placement of that underground transmission line would require an easement agreement placed on that, an agreement with the applicant and that property owner. It is a small portion of the lot where they're proposing to run the transmission line, so that's something the applicant will need to work on. It meets all required setbacks. It meets all required lot coverage. The way lot coverage is calculated is you basically draw a line around all of the panels, all of the equipment, inclusive of roadways, and the site plan does comply with those requirements. Again, now this is, not that it's a consideration for the planning board, but the special permit, which will be granted by the town board, is said to have a duration of 20 years. At the initial offset of this project, they are requesting the 20-year approval and as well as 2 5-year extensions. I believe this was done to coordinate with the PSC, the RFP that was issued by LIPA. They have provided a preliminary decommissioning plan for the proposed solar farm pursuant to town code. The town's consulting engineer will need to review the decommissioning plan and provide comments as to the proposed estimates. That's all. The rest of it is for a special permit pertaining to town board. That's all I've got. Does the board have any questions?
Aren't there, I was just curious, did you guys do a title search on that road yet? Do you know who the owner is of that road?
We've engaged Chicago Title in an extensive title search. They have actually found that they cannot define the owner. but they said that's actually pretty common in Suffolk County. They've also said that they believe the budding landowners have the right to use that land, and will provide documentation of course, to prove that.
It's been actually a 6-month process that's ongoing, but they're telling us that they're very substantially completed. So we expect to have that shortly, and our updated letter in response to comments from Greg has been submitted to him electronically. He'll have hard copies tomorrow, but he already has the electronic version, and that reflects that to him, that when that's completed, it will be forwarded to him.
Thank you, Steve.
Aren't there a couple residential properties along Edwards Avenue that this is gonna abut to?
Yes, sir, and they do. Yes, so section 301-282E requires a minimum 25-foot vegetated buffer to provide year-round screening from adjacent properties and a minimum 50-foot buffer along roads. The minimum 25-foot buffer does not differentiate between residential and industrial uses. So they are proposing the minimum 25-foot vegetated buffer, and the panels do meet the required setbacks. There was one panel, and by panel I mean like one specific panel, which appeared to be within the setback to those residential properties, and I think it was just miscalculated based on the angle of the property. I don't think it would be a significant undertaking to relocate one panel over 119 acres, and I believe it will comply with that.
So what is the setback from those homes?
The setback to those homes. In its current,
While he's looking, could somebody show on this map where the connection is going to be from the west property?
Excuse me?
Out from the western property, where's the connection?
Sure, yeah, it's hard to see here, but, we go underground, so this is our western parcel, I follow this line here, across this way. So the intention was to avoid, the state property there.
Could you go down to Edwards Avenue, to River Road instead?
I guess it gets a little difficult just with it'd be, I think, 2 railroad crossings, and there's a couple of utilities in Edwards, so I think this would be
Or aren't you on the north side of the railroad?
Yeah, but on River Road, there's two railroads. So that'll tie into the one that's crossing Edwards Avenue going to the tracks.
it'll be difficult for you to see. This is the Calverton Lakes property. These are the residential
Right.
parcels,
Mhm.
parcels here. The way this angle was calculated, it was this panel bank that needed to be relocated, so it needs to be 102 feet. So
That's already been
setback
addressed.
here is 105.3 feet, and over here is 51, which meets the required setback, so it was just, kind of needs to be revised to remove that panel bank.
Well, that's right in their backyards, huh?
It does meet with the required 100-foot setback from residential property lines.
If I could note, there was the reference to the one and only panel that, because of the odd positioning, appeared to be within the setback. In the revised plans, which have been submitted electronically, and I know hard copies will be to Greg by Monday, that's already been addressed, so that's now taken out of the equation.
Okay, so at the very least, that has to be met, but I would myself like to see a greater setback from those backyards of those homes. I mean, this is gonna be right in their backyards. Whatever you can come up with.
We'll work on that,
We'll
of course.
take it back to our engineering team, of course, and see what we can do.
So this 22.9 will be on, it'll be on one lot? Correct.
The two property, the
So
west.
this will take up both pieces of property?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Are there any plans to acquire any additional land there and then continue to build this thing out
No,
at this
our-
point?
No.
No, our interconnection request with the NICE is for 22.9 megawatts, so we cannot increase that. The project will not be bigger than 22.9 megawatts.
We're bound,
You could have another. But you could have another one.
We don't have another project proposed in the area currently.
So now, just one question is, even if there was advancing technologies with solar panels, you wouldn't even be able to swap out the panels to increase your production, right? Based on the RFP.
The nameplate capacity of 22.9 would never change. We would never increase it.
And that's a function of state law and the ISO process, because we're bound by what was bid and then what the interconnection agreement will be, so it couldn't happen.
We would have to go back through the NISO, and then also, Chris just pointed out, our contract with LIPA is for the 22.9, so, you know.
Okay. So we've gotten some conflicting information from applicants for the solar in this whole area. And I think this is the fourth one that's come through the planning board. And after the second one, this board was advised on the record that we had to rush the application approval process because PSE&G had a strict deadline to get this one. And this isn't your project, I'm just telling you the conflicting information. That this would be the last one because they had no room for expansion. And there's been two more after that. So what I'd like to see is a letter from PSE&G stating that they have the capacity to accept your facility, and also what their total capacity is for their substation on Edwards Avenue going forward. What they could accept yours, and what's left to accept after yours, so that we could better understand what's available and how many more may be coming to us.
They may not be in agreement with you, but they could be in agreement with someone else. That's what we're concerned about.
And I'd like that
It
letter
just keeps growing.
addressed to the planning board.
Understood. And you would, just so I'm clear, you would like us to do that, or staff?
No, we'd like you to do that. They're accepting your power, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, you would like the letter from us or from PSE&G?
From PSE&G.
Yes, so we'll formally make that request to them,
Okay.
indicating that the letter will be addressed to you.
Now, just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, is that the existing capacity of the LIPA substation in its current state, or is that reflective of a total
What their
hypothetical?
total future capacity is, and that they have enough to accept this project.
At some point, they must be expanding that facility so they can take more solar power. Since supposedly for the first 2 or 3, that was it. So they've got to do some construction on their own.
Your method for crossing Edwards Avenue, I think Greg mentioned that you were gonna provide that detail, or you did provide that detail.
Yes,
We did.
in the latest drawings, correct.
Yeah.
It's an updated to show that.
So what are you proposing to cross Edwards Avenue?
It'll be a horizontal directional drill underground.
How big and what size, how many conduits?
I'm not sure exactly, number of conduits, but it's just gonna be, our collection route from, both facilities. We'll go to our on-site collection substation, and from there, one line out to the substation.
So since you're gonna be operating high voltage under a town road in a public right-of-way, is that activity regulated by the Public Service Commission?
I do not believe so.
I don't believe so.
You don't believe so?
Yeah,
No,
because it
not-
wouldn't fall under the jurisdiction of Article
It's
7,
not
because
allowed.
it's under a specific voltage. So we would not need, public service.
Okay, what about for 811 purposes?
We would have to coordinate with 811, absolutely.
And National Grid would, as a partner, would be the on-call facility that would respond 24/7?
Respond to,
An 811 call in the area?
well, 811 now is a service that National Grid participates in, PSE&G, so it's usually one company that goes out and does all the markouts.
Right, but you're gonna own the electric cable underneath Edwards Avenue, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
NextEra's gonna own that.
Next area, National Grid.
So-
correct.
Yes.
That's a live transmission line in the public right-of-way. So the question is who is going to respond if that needs to be complied with 811?
Well, it would be in the 811 system, so if they need the markouts, which is what 811 is about, they would do both markouts at the same
Who
time.
would?
The company that handles 811, there's a company that you call, like One Stop Shopping.
I understand that,
And they
but-
have all that
But
information.
the owner of the facility has to contract with somebody to be available 24/7. That's why I asked if you were gonna be regulated by the PSC.
Do you mean in case of emergency?
Yes.
That's not 811.
different.
Yeah, we will have an on-island electrical firm that does our operations
Correct.
and maintenance, and they would.
Well, that is 811.
811's DigSafe.
Right, that's who you call, that's
That's
who
the
you
market.
call if something's going on in the area. Like if if the gas company needs to work on, well, you guys are the gas company, or the water company needs to work on their pipe and they call.
Yeah.
Okay, they provide the service,
Mhm.
but you have to have a contract with somebody to respond 24/7 to mark out your facility.
There is a company that handles 811 for PSE&G and National Grid that does that for us. If there was an emergency, we'll have an on-island
I think that-
electrical contract.
I think the confusion is between the 811 markout and then the availability of 24-hour emergency call-in or the availability for service.
I'll stop saying 811. Industrial Code Rule 753, okay? Who is gonna respond? PSE&G is not gonna own this line underneath Edwards Avenue. So it's not their responsibility to mark it out in an emergency.
Yeah.
Correct, we will have
And we
a
will do that. We do.
on-island.
Yeah.
We have an on-island manager that responds to all situations.
24/7, they're on call.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
and I think there was just, again, the confusion between the one and the other.
So I think I read in Greg's report something about draining a pond? Or was it on
Yes,
one of the?
it's a part of the
Oh,
old
but-
golf course. It
yeah.
has a rubber liner in it, so we'd be removing that, pond.
And
Fi-
filling it in?
Yes.
Okay, can we just be assured that that's certified clean fill that goes back in there?
Sure.
The landscape plan also along Edwards Avenue. I think it's lacking a little bit. The species that you specified, are they green all year, or do they lose their leaves in the wintertime?
I believe it's primarily coniferous. If you'd like, I'd pull up the
Sure.
drawing. It's on two sheets, one for the eastern, one for the western. I can tell you the particular species. It's a mix of shrubs, so there are two buffers. One's the 50-foot wide along roadways and I believe along the residential uses, and then the 25-foot is the smaller one by other industrial uses. So it's a mix of eastern red cedar and spruces, Norway spruce, white spruce, Colorado spruce. So yes, there's no
Okay.
deciduous proposed. And then there's also ornamental shrubs, holly, olive, laurels, and viburnums. So that's the,
So the bottom one's the fence line on, with the planting plan on the very bottom there, yes.
yeah, yep,
That's along Edwards Avenue?
correct.
Okay. And all the caliber and height of those are specified on there?
Yeah, so they're all gonna be proposed at 7 to 8 feet, installed 7 to 8 foot height. You know, there's the two different kinds, like I said, this is, you know, the 50-foot wide goes along, Edwards out there. Behind these residences, there's existing
Okay.
trees, and we're gonna supplement with another 50-foot, more robust buffer there.
And we-
You have smaller copies of this by any chance?
Not with me, but we can certainly send you PDFs or 11 by 17s if that's
That
helpful.
would help.
Sure,
Yeah, PDF would be good.
okay.
And will they be irrigated?
We're not proposing on-site irrigation. I mean, we have the capacity to, so when you get them established, and then we have the option to use that, or we could truck them water, but obviously, we understand that we plant them, they have to be maintained.
Okay.
So you're not planning any sort of drip irrigation?
No. They're gonna be at-grade, it's not gonna be on a berm, so better chance for stormwater, provide the necessary rainfall.
And as far as the maintenance, is there gonna be a maintenance plan that you follow? Because we've had issues where the plantings across the street were knee-deep, knee-high, the grass, and we had to call probably for the first 6 months to get it maintained. So actually, we should make that a condition of the maintenance of the property, Greg.
Yeah, it's also in our interest too, but for the overall facility, you know, it's a maximum panel height of 8 feet, so we don't want the underlying vegetation to grow tall. So it will be mowed.
Okay.
Is your plan to develop both sites at the same time, or one, or western one first, or the eastern one?
Construction will go on in tangent.
Both?
Yes, sir.
I would just like to bring up, with regards to the landscaping plan, I recently, earlier this week, I did a final site inspection for the S-Power site. They were found to be in substantial compliance, but the one thing I noticed, not that they were visible from any public view sheds, but the spacing of the plants, it sort of left a lot of space in between. The only thing I would recommend is anywhere where this is gonna be visible, either from a residence, public right-of-way, any sort of business use, ensure that the distance between the plants is small enough to where they'll quickly grow and fill it in, because, like I said, the one thing I noticed with S-Power was that there were some larger gaps, which are based on the types of trees that are being proposed, they may grow fully into it, but, you know, it's very important, I think, where we have residential uses or anything that's gonna be visible from the public right away, to ensure that that's planted, you know, substantially and
Were
not
they
some.
staggered, Greg?
Yes, yes, sir.
They
They were, you know, very similar to the planting plan here. They were staggered. Like I said, it's just that the space between the trees, you know, instead of waiting for them to grow in in a couple of years, anywhere where it's gonna be residential or visible from a public right-of-way or any other business, I would recommend you using substantial plantings and just make sure that those gaps in between it do not leave any sort of view sheds that could be impacted.
Do the panels make power even if it's raining or foggy?
Yes, sir.
They do? Same amount of power if the sun's out?
No, it would be,
Absolutely.
yeah, not full power.
Where do you stand with DEC on WRC?
We've submitted the Wild Scenic River, we've spoken to them about setbacks, and we've.
Yeah, so
we've done
it's
everything.
still ongoing. They came out, they walked the site, confirmed all our wetland delineation locations. So right now, they're still under their review process.
Does Nextera have any other facilities within the region that they own and maintain?
We don't have solar projects on Long Island, we do have energy storage projects on Long Island, and East Hampton and Montauk.
Is it your company's intention to keep this for the full term of the lease?
Yes, correct. We own and operate throughout, that's our.
And those two projects are also partnered with National Grid.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the board?
I like it.
Just one thing, I'm gonna ask our attorney, Mr. Ailes, if you could just verify whether or not this crossing is an activity that is regulated by the PSC. I'd like to have an opinion from you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
I do also just want to note real quick, I was impressed with, when I did the S-Power site visit, at the amount of wildlife that I saw on site. I mean, I probably saw about a dozen groundhogs running throughout the site, going underneath the gap in the fence that was specifically left to let small critters go in. Saw a number of birds, and butterflies were abundant, which kind of took me by surprise, so just worth noting.
Okay.
You're supposed to be working, not looking at butterflies. Next, she's gonna be out with a net.
I'll let the environmental guy go on that one.
Are there any transformers on site, like before it leaves the
We,
property?
we're stepping our voltage up to 34.5 on the collection substation on site. I'm sorry, 138, and then so from 34.5 to 138, and then bringing it over, so yes.
So is that only in one location, or like from the western portion to the eastern portion? Is there
It's on
anything-
the eastern portion. If you actually look by the driveway, on the eastern side, it's right south of it,
Right inside the driveway?
to the south of the driveway.
Yeah. Did we get fire marshal comments?
I did not get fire marshal comments.
All right, so we'll get some feedback on the questions that came up tonight, fire marshal comments, an opinion from our attorney, and then we'll keep moving forward.
Thank you, we'll work on those letters that you require.
Thank
Thank you very
again.
much for your time.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, number 3, Glass Residence, Chapter 219. your names for the record, please.
Damon, go ahead, Rod.
You're first.
Damon Hamilton, I'm here on behalf of the architect Stella Montrahani.
I'm Dr. Ron Abrams from Drew Associates.
Okay,
The planning department has received and reviewed a chapter 219 coastal erosion hazard line permit application to construct a new two-story single-family residence with basement, deck and screen porch, carport, pool house, accessory structure, an in-ground pool, along with new driveway, septic system, dry wells, and utility connection. The applicant has also engaged with an environmental consultant as to the location of the coastal erosion hazard line, which is shown on the plan. Regarding SECR, the proposed action is a type 2, 617.511, action pursuant to SECR, and no environmental review is required. The proposed construction of the new two-story single-family residence is located on 120 Louise Court in Riverhead, within the RA residential zoning district, with said parcel being more described as Suffolk County Tax Number 600-17-1-8.3, totaling 2.34 acres. The surrounding area is predominantly residential. The applicant has depicted that the presented site plan is compatible with the original subdivision and does not represent any undue adverse impact on the environment, the coastal erosion hazard area program, or the local ecology of the coastal area involved in this project. The proposed construction will disturb more than 1 acre. As such, a SWIP in a form approved by the town engineer is required prior to the issuance of a building permit. At this time, the applicant has no intention of constructing a stairway on the seaward side of the CEHL and will submit another application in the future to address said project. As for the consulting engineer, in the letter dated July 16th, the consulting engineer had the following comments. The site topography consists of moderate to severe slopes. With that said, we recommend that stormwater runoff resulting from the proposed improved areas of the site be managed and contained on-site in a manner that would conform to the design standards of the zoning code. His second comment was that construction details for the proposed improvement associated with the stairway would need to be approved by New York DEC, but as depicted on the site plan, there are no plans to construct a stairway down the seaward side of the bluff.
but it's shown on the plan that we have. Is it not?
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, what I was asked to do was to identify a potential pathway. I explained to the applicant that this is probably the best choice, but it would have to be fully designed and permitted by DEC and then brought back to the town. So this is just a conceptual location.
Okay, can we just label a little better, not subject to disapproval,
Sure.
please? Thank you.
So, and then his consulting engineer's third comment was the proposed limit of disturbance should be delineated, and the area of disturbance noted on the survey and site plan. In the event that the proposed area of disturbance exceeds 1 acre, a stormwater pollution prevention plan consisting of an erosion and sediment control component would need to be prepared, and permit coverage obtained under the New York DEC Speedy General Permit. The SWIP would need to be submitted and approved by the town's stormwater management officer. Staff recommends the planning board grant approval for the construction of a two-family, single-story residence, and with the condition that prior to the issuance of a building permit, the application must submit a SWIP in a form approved by the town engineer. Does the board have any questions?
The drawings that, the photos you have there of this pathway, is it an active pathway?
No, what I did was I got up on the bluff and I looked closely at.
I'm talking about going back towards Louise Court. In other words, after it leaves the property and goes on to the adjacent lots here, lot 2, is that an active?
All right,
This here,
let me understand where you're at.
No, here, it goes out here, where's it?
Oh.
Yeah. After it leaves the property, where's it go?
You're
Yeah.
not referring to this?
Yes, I am, but going the other way, going south.
Going here, or
Going
down
south,
at the beach?
off the property.
Well, it doesn't, we show it terminating here, and in fact, that is at a location that.
So it doesn't go any further?
No, no, you
Okay.
see, this is an old roadbed that
Yeah.
runs parallel to the bluff. So I went down the roadbed and I found the best place to go over the roadbed and down at the bluff, and that's all I did, was identify that as a location.
Okay.
We don't have a plan for it to
Yeah.
to leave the property, I just wanted to show where it could be,
Okay.
and noting, of course, that it would have to be permitted and designed, and we will make sure we annotate the plans that it's not part of your current approval.
Very often, very often those roads would continue all the way up even to the main road, and somebody years ago used it as a path to get down to the beach.
Yes, yes, there are several of those old pathways, that's partly how I figured out where I thought the CEHA line should be. Because, 100 years ago, somebody knew where the slopes were and where to run pathways.
We have a resolve in resolution that the, prior to commencement of construction, the planner should notify the, who is it, environmental planner of the town. Who holds that position?
John.
You do? Okay.
So, there's a proposed one-story structure, 4 bedroom, and then it says proposed 2-story structure. Are they connected or are they separate?
There's two structures on site. There's a two-story, three bedroom, I believe. Is it two, do they have it listed at two?
This one, it
two-
says
two-
proposed 1-story structure, 4 bedroom, and then it says proposed 2-story structure.
There's a two-story structure for the home, and then there's a small pool house and pool that we just recently got approved by the zoning board for being in the front yard. Those are the only two structures on site. I don't believe that that's written correctly then.
Is that a dwelling unit, is that a living unit?
No, it is not. There's just a small bathroom in there. That's it.
No kitchen quarters?
No kitchen quarters.
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about that one. On the two that are shown where your building is going.
This is
Yes.
This is the carport
Right.
going into the two-story home, two-story residence. This is the two-story residence here.
Okay. Just
Sure,
me to
sure,
show.
mine.
Drawing says proposed 2-bedroom and proposed 4-bedroom.
Yeah.
Should be that way. Can I-
Yes, sir. Right here and right here.
This is mislabeled by Y and Y.
Okay.
Yeah, this is mislabeled by Y and Y. The drawings that we have on file with the building department.
Shows the same thing.
Let me see what,
So, which is it that you're actually proposing?
The 2-story.
the two-story structure.
So the notation proposed 1-story should be
So
removed?
there's, the structure itself has a one-story component and a two-story component. They are not two separate buildings. They're adjoined. It's just that it's been mislabeled on the plan relative.
So it's one dwelling, it's not a common wall between the two, it's one structure, one dwelling?
Correct. That
Okay,
is
so
correct.
plan should be revised to be,
Sure. But our site plan does not indicate that Y and Y mislabeled that. Yeah.
Okay.
If you look at our site plan, that's not the case.
Could you show that to us?
Sure. That's what's on up there on. Mr. Chairman, can I just, the driveway comes up, there's a carport here, outdoor covered entry into kind of entry area here. There's bedrooms to the left and dining kitchen living to how
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
roof lines.
Well, it's
Yes.
labeled too, so.
Yeah, yeah,
All right,
definitely.
so you'll,
We'll get Young and Young to update
Okay.
their implementation.
okay. And the cabana has separate sanitary facilities?
Yes, it does.
Have you gone to the health department yet?
Yes, I don't recall, I believe we have, yes, we have, we have been to the health department.
So Stan, when we get to that resolution, we'll need to revise it to reflect.
Revised plan?
Revised Young and Young site, yeah, sure.
And then also about the notation about the pathway. That's not part of this application.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is Verizon Wireless at Sound Avenue, Jamesport.
All right, the planning department has received and reviewed a site plan application to modify and upgrade existing public utility wireless communications facility. The proposed modifications will be made at an existing 3,136 square foot public utility wireless communication facility within a fenced wireless communications compound with a 90-foot tall monopole equipment shelter which belongs to AT&T and an equipment pen which belongs to Verizon, located on a 1-acre parcel located off Sound Shore Road in Riverhead within the RA 80 residential zoning district. The surrounding area is predominantly within residential and agricultural zoning boundaries. The proposed action is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. Coordinated review is optional and is not recommended. The proposed work consists of replacing 3 existing panel antennas, adding 3 remote radio heads. The antenna FCC RF compliance and assessment report prepared by Daniel J. Collins, Chief Technical Officer of Pinnacle Telecom Group, dated January 15th, was signed and stamped by Peter Longo, licensed New York State PE, which analyzed potential RF exposure at the site from all existing and proposed Verizon wireless communications equipment and all of the carriers, including AT&T. The report states that the RF exposure levels at the site will be 3.086% of the maximum permissible exposure limits established by the FCC for continuous exposure for the general public. The structural analysis report is signed and stamped by a licensed New York State PE, and analyzing the existing antenna and supporting structures, and found that the tower has sufficient capacity to carry the proposed load configuration with no modifications required at this time. The mount analysis prepared and stamped by a licensed New York State PE analyzed the existing Verizon wireless mounting systems to which the proposed loads will be applied and determined the existing mounting systems are calculated to be within acceptable tolerances for pipe stress, deflection, and bending moment at critical bending sections. The proposed connections have adequate structural capacity to support the proposed loads. Staff recommends the planning board assume lead agency, issue a negative declaration, and grant administrative approval to Verizon Wireless with the following conditions: that prior to the issuance of a building permit, a letter written, signed, and stamped by a New York State licensed PE certifying that the site plan issue date corresponds with the structural analysis, mount analysis, and site plan packet. Does the board have any questions?
Okay, so they signed off on the additional equipment that the structure can handle that,
Yes.
and also the mounts.
Yes.
And the FCC compliance report is under the limits.
20 times under the limit.
And this is what, backed by the Tosco property or Northville property there?
Yes.
I don't remember seeing that. Yeah. Okay, these have,
The reason you don't notice it is this is one of the antennas are inside the monopole.
okay.
You know, the one
Yeah.
down on Jen Avenue, it's all outside.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
All right, thanks, John. Thank you. Okay, next up, Irwin Garstin Retail Center.
Come on up, I don't bite.
Just little nipples.
No, I wouldn't say a word today. Good evening, Jefferson Murphy, Building Planning Administrator for the record.
Pete Danowski is here as the attorney of record. Laura Garstin's daughter, Patty Pedersen, who's the family representatives in the audience. Doug Adams from Young & Young is here. These are some minor modifications that Mr. Murphy will address. And we're hopeful that at the next formal meeting, we might be able to have an amended site plan resolution, because we've got contractual obligations and we're really under the gun and we're in the middle of cleaning the site. So everything would be appreciated if we could move along to the next meeting.
This is an application that you've already seen. It's an application for a 58,000 square foot, was a multi-tenant, 5-tenant building located between the town of Riverhead Highway Yard and where the Best Buy building is to the west. It did get site plan approval for a 5-tenant, 58,600 square foot, 5-tenant building. What the applicant is seeking now is they have a single tenant going to occupy the building, so the 5 tenants is now gonna become 1. As a result of that, the building size is gonna be decreased from 58,608 square feet down to 55,600 square feet, so they're reducing the building slightly. The other changes are, there's some minor dimensional changes, obviously, with the shrinkage of the building, but they're minor in terms of 3 feet here, 4 feet there, but nothing that changes the dimensional regulations. The building elevation is now changed since you last saw it, it's going from 5-tenant building down to a single-tenant building. The tenant obviously has a certain building style and architecture that it's proposing. They are scheduled for the August 21st Architectural Review Board meeting.
Who's the tenant?
What's that?
Who is the tenant?
Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby?
Uh-huh. It's a single-tenant hobby shop. It's similar, I don't wanna compare it to, there is a Michael's next door in the Best Buy Shopping Center. That's an arts and crafts store, very, very large. This is gonna be a 55,600 square foot hobby and craft store. One loading berth is proposed now. There were 3 approved. A loading ramp has been added to the back. The door and access locations have obviously changed from 5 tenants down to 1. The lighting fixtures have been updated based upon the different size and architectural style of the building. Trash locations have changed. There used to be 1 for each tenant. Now there's only a single garbage receptacle for the dumpster for the single tenant. Secret, this is a type 2 action, so a very minor change. Again, the Architectural Review Board will look at the architecture on August 21st. An engineer has reviewed the application and they have okayed the revisions to the plan.
Who did?
Town engineer.
Okay. Doug, the front elevation, is that what's gonna be viewed from Route 58?
Yes.
Trying to picture it because you have the whole pond and the trees in the front. So how are you gonna see that, or are you only gonna see it as you pass it more?
Yeah, we'll see it based upon a restoration plan that was approved by the DEC and the town. There's certain requirements that we have to do to work around things, and then once it's completed, that's the way it stays, absent planning staff saying something to change.
No, I'm just,
There'll be visibility
Yeah.
created, and you will see it. But it is a problem, it has always been a problem about the distance from Route 58. No question. In the very beginning of time, I don't wanna rehash things.
No,
There was a
just-
small building in the front and a larger building in the back, and we eliminated the smaller building completely.
okay. All right, well, I mean, we've been through the process, it's a smaller building, and this really shouldn't be an issue.
Correct.
So when is the ARB gonna look at it?
August 21st.
August 21st, okay. And when, our next meeting's before that, though.
Yeah, the 14th, so we would have to act on it in the first meeting in September. That'd be the earliest.
If we could, that would be our goal, because
Okay.
we're really under the gun.
Unless you wanna act before.
And I understood you had to come here first or something, so that's fine.
Subject to
Yeah.
If you want, if you want to, we can certainly do that.
That would even be helpful, anything we could to make that move.
Did you have to go back to building?
Yeah, but it's, our problems are, there are obligations for the tenant, and there are obligations for us under the contract. I didn't do the contract, you know, it's not within my purview, but we have to deliver the site and the pad, and we have a time to do that, and that's coming up, so.
And I have to tell you, through no fault of the applicant, they were delayed for other reasons outside the scope of this application before us this evening and this board, that anything we can do to help the applicant along, I think we should avail ourselves to it if we can.
You
Thank
still have
you.
to get approved from the building department, correct?
Yeah, we'll be rolling around, we're waiting for the, well, this has to be done, but the DPW permit will issue and we'll go.
Okay, we'll move it along.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you for your courtesy.
Okay, item 6 on the agenda, Sons Riverhead LLC.
I am filling in on, for Karen Booth for this application. You reviewed this application on numerous occasions. It's a former Sports Authority building. We have a resolution on for you this evening to approve it. There were some edits I made to the resolution. You have the amended copy in front of you this evening. Everything has been satisfied to Karen's conditions. There are some minor revisions that are gonna be needed to the plan that are enumerated in the resolution. I don't know if you want me to go through those with you. They're very minor, has to do with lighting being consistent, a lighting table, to show the location of the dumpster compactor behind the building, some minor changes like that. But aside from that, I think we're ready for approval.
Applicant has no issues with those minor changes?
No.
Okay. Just your names for the record for tonight, please.
I'm Sal Niego, the architect, Jeffrey Sirota and Charles Sirota, the two owners.
Thank you. Any questions from the
No.
board?
No.
Ready to go? Okay. Sorry to keep you all this time.
No, that's okay.
Such a quick appearance. We'll keep it moving.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
very much. Much appreciated.
Okay, we're up to the public hearings. First public hearing tonight is for Dune Warehouse on Pulaski Street. Yeah, please.
Pat, do you have any boards that you want to present?
No, I don't.
Oh, we do, I'm sorry. Pat, we do. One of the things we're gonna try to change, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, is typically we've been posting plans on the outside of the hallway, and it's kind of inconvenient for the public to be going back and forth between meetings, so, we've been posting plans on boards, and we have the easel, so we can have them here.
Fantastic.
You know, just make sure I get the right plan.
How does that help?
Well, as long as they can see them before the meeting.
They're still outside though before the meeting, so the public can look at them outside, correct?
And here also.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right, good evening. Hello, is this on? Okay, all right. I'll do my best to project. Greg Bergman with the Town of Riverhead Planning Department. We're having a public hearing on a site plan application, which is proposing to construct a 5,400 square foot single-story warehouse building, along with new curb cuts, parking, landscaping, lighting, stormwater and sanitary improvements on a vacant parcel of industrially zoned land. The proposed action is an unlisted action pursuant to secret. Planning staff has reviewed the full environmental assessment form, and with parts 2 and 3 completed by planning staff. Based upon review of the information contained within the full EAF, the site plan application and site plan drawings, planning staff recommends that the planning board assume lead agency status without the need for coordinated review, and recommends that a negative declaration be issued pursuant to SECR, as there are no foreseeable negative impacts to health, safety, character, or general welfare of the surrounding area. The subject parcel is a 1.03 acre parcel which is located on the southwest corner of Pulaski Street and JT Boulevard, further described as 1281 Pulaski Street in Riverhead. Both JT Boulevard and Pulaski Street are part of the town highway system. The site is located within the Industrial A zoning use district. Property shares its western property boundary with Town Hall West, which houses the town accounting, engineering, buildings and grounds, and IT's department. There is a single-family residence located on the parcel to the south, and it is noted that the house on that lot is set back approximately 250 feet with the shared property boundary. The subject parcel is presently a vacant wooded lot. The site has 300 feet of frontage on JT Boulevard and 150 feet of frontage on Pulaski Street. There is a regulated freshwater wetland to the south of the subject parcel, which is identified as DEC wetland number R5, and also as Town of Riverhead freshwater wetland number 1502. The wetland extends approximately 15 feet onto the southern portion of the subject parcel. The wetland flagging was conducted by JMO Environmental Consulting on February 3rd, 2019, and the applicant is not proposing any clearing within 150 feet of this regulated wetland. The property is generally flat with an elevation of approximately 19 feet above mean sea level on the Pulaski Street frontage and varying along the property to approximately 14 feet above median sea level at the southern property boundary. There is a large pile of earthen material, which has been identified by planning staff, and the planning board has had some conversations on it. There was some material testing that was done, which Mr. Verdun provided me prior to this meeting, which I've just given up to Carissa, which she'll distribute. I have not had a chance to review the contents of that report yet, so I'll save that for a future work session. The proposed principal use is consistent with the Industrial A master plan. The site plan complies with all dimensional requirements of the Industrial A zoning district, including floor area ratio, building coverage, impervious coverage, and all front, rear, and side yard setbacks. It is also noted that pursuant to town code, properties in the Industrial A zoning district shall provide at least 15% of the lot area in contiguous landscaped area, with preference given to existing habitat. As it's currently proposed, the application is proposing to preserve approximately 19,500 square feet of existing habitat in the southern portion of the property near the wetland, which equates to approximately 43% contiguous open space. The preservation of that habitat also satisfies another section of code, which requires a 25-foot non-disturbed transitional side and rear yard when industrial use is adjacent to a residential use. The site plan proposes 2 curb cuts to access the site. Two-way traffic in and out would come from Pulaski Street, and it would also have a 2-way in and out curb cut off of JT Boulevard. Both curb cuts are more than 75 feet away, which complies with the town code. There is a dumpster enclosure on the site. All of the site lighting complies with the height and color temperature requirements of the town code. They are compliant with the required parking for the proposed use. The application does propose some landscaping along the Pulaski Street frontage, which consists of 12 Andorra junipers and 8 bayberry. The site, there are also several large trees on the site which would be retained. It is noted there is a recorded easement on the property which grants, it's situated on the southern portion of the parcel. It's a 20-foot wide easement which grants access for emergency vehicles and personnel. Being that there's no disturbance being proposed in this area and no roadways, that easement doesn't really impact the proposed site plan. The application did go to the Conservation Advisory Council in a letter dated April 15th, 2019. The CAC recommended approval of the project with the following conditions: that the applicant obtain either a letter of no jurisdiction or a permit from the New York State DEC as required, and they must get Suffolk County Department of Health Services approval prior to construction. Beyond that, I mean, that's pretty much the substance of the application and what's being proposed.
Okay, maybe the applicant can just state his name for the record. We got the posting affidavit and everything, right?
Postings. Yeah, Patrick Fadoon, Laurel, New York.
Pat, what kind of soil testing did they do there?
They did soil testing for oil composites, oil, and asbestos.
And how many locations?
There's 2 locations.
2?
Yep.
Thank you.
And we have the reports?
It's right here, yeah. Can you just distribute to the board for the next meeting? All right, thank you.
Greg hasn't had a chance to go through that report, but could you give us a, Reader's Digest version of what it said?
Sure, with the soil samples? Yeah, one soil sample was taken at middle of the mound. One was taken the west northern parcel. 2 samples were taken of each site. They were delivered to the test stations. They tested it, and they concluded that there was no contamination.
Thank you.
So what's the proposed use for this? Is it gonna be an auto shop or something, or?
No, it'd be a warehouse like always my other projects are.
Storage?
Contractor storage, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, light use.
So Greg noted that the property is wooded right now?
Yes.
How much clearing is actually gonna take place? Is the whole parcel gonna be cleared?
No, not at all, no. Probably just where the building's gonna go, which is, maybe say 6,000 square feet. Probably clearing maybe 17,000 square feet total, I imagine. I'm trying to save all I can on it.
I'd appreciate if you could make an extra effort, because what happened across the street is just horrible.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just
if
horrible.
you see my site plan, you can see what I'm trying to save.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, anyone from the public have any comments or questions on this application or project? Anyone from the public? If you could come up to the podium, please, and just state your name.
My name is Thomas McSwain. I live near the site. I'm just curious if the size of the trucks, will they be like just box trucks? Will they be semi-trucks?
Could you answer that, Mr. Fadoon?
Most of my projects, the tenants that I do have, they do not have any semi-trucks that come in. The overhead doors, I think, are gonna be at 14 feet high, so you're not gonna get any large semi-trucks even to fit in here, so we're gonna keep it low profile.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I move we close the hearing on Fadoon Warehouse.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close the public hearing for Fadoon Warehouse. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 2, 609 Northfield Turnpike. You don't have them? Are they here? Oh, they are here.
All right, Greg Bergman, Town of Riverhead Planning Department. The Planning Department has received and reviewed a 2-lot minor subdivision application which proposes to subdivide an existing half-acre parcel and create 2 separate building lots. The subject parcel, identified as tax map number 106-3-14, is located at 609 Northfield Turnpike. It is located on the eastern side of Northfield Turnpike, which is County Route 43, approximately 200 feet north of the intersection of Northfield Turnpike and Elton Street. Subject parcel is located within the RA 40 zoning district and is located in a predominantly residential area. Parcel is surrounded on all sides by single-family residences, and there is a commercial daycare center located approximately 200 feet away at the intersection of Northfield Turnpike and Elton Street. Site's presently improved with a 1-story single-family residence, which is approximately 1,400 square feet in size, and is situated on the eastern side of the property. The western side of the property is currently vacant. The existing structure currently has several open permits for interior renovations and electrical work, none of which have been issued a certificate of occupancy as of the publication date of the report.
Anybody living there?
No, but we did get electrical permit.
If you could come up and just state your name for the record, and if you're, I'm sorry,
Monica Majewski?
you're the owner of the property?
No, he is. I
Okay.
represent.
And his
Nobody
name?
lives there, we're waiting for the subdivision.
His name?
Adrian?
Adrian
Okay, Adrian.
Cornell? We are waiting for the subdivision, there was a buyer actually, waiting, but, you know, it took a little bit of time, so. So yeah, the electric pass will still have open permits for the building.
So that's on the existing home, but you're proposing.
Yeah.
If this passes, you're proposing to build another home on the property?
Yes, we went to zoning on, May 16th, and we got approved, granted the zoning for both.
And there's public water and sewer there?
Yes.
And that's county road, right? Is that county road? Do they need anything from the county for a driveway cut?
Yeah.
Yes, we did receive comments from the Suffolk County Department of Public Works, and they will need to obtain a road opening permit for any proposed new driveway. And there were also comments that they wanted the existing driveway to comply with county requirements.
Okay.
As I said, beyond that, the applicant did receive the variances for the substandard lot size, as well as for a proposed building envelope, just so that they didn't have to go back to the zoning board after the subdivision when they go to build a house.
Okay. Any questions from the board? This is pretty straightforward. Split.
I move we close.
Well, one second. Any comments from the public? Anyone from the public want to speak on this public hearing application? Okay.
I'm sorry, question. Yep. Water and sewer,
Yes, sir.
both?
Yes, public water, public sewer.
I move we close the public hearing for 609 Northfield Turnpike LLC. So moved.
Second motion?
Okay, motion made and seconded to close the public hearing for 609 Northfield Turnpike LLC. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Okay, thank you. All right, before we do the resolutions, is there any public comment on the resolutions in front of the board tonight? Any public comment? Okay,
I'll move resolution number 69, claim lead agency and declares a negative declaration for Mary Ellen Real Estate.
Second motion?
okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 69 for Mary Ellen Real Estate LLC. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is approved.
Resolution to 270-219 Blue Water Development. Resolution to set a public hearing for a site plan for demolition of the existing house and construction of a 6,800 industrial building for warehouse use and associated improvements. This is 313 Edmonds Avenue.
Second motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 70 for Blue Water Development to schedule a public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is approved. Yes. Yeah, I have it.
I'll move resolution number 71, the Glass Resident, Chapter 219, with amendments, so moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 71 for Glass Residence to include the revised site plan with regard to the walkway not being part of the approval, and also to remove the captions for the two dwellings that were shown on the site plan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution's approved.
I'll move resolution number 72, which classified lead agency and negative declaration and grants administrative approval for the wireless facility on Sound Shore Road.
Second motion?
Motion made and seconded to approve resolution 72 for Verizon Wireless at Sound Shore Road. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is approved. 5.
Resolution 73 of 219 Suns Riverhead LLC.
Second.
Resolution to approve administrative site plan to split the former
Sports Authority building at 1160 Old Country Road into 3 storefronts. Do facade improvements, roadway improvements, handicap ramp improvements, you name it, it's being done.
Second motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 73, Sons Riverhead LLC for administrative site plan approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is approved.
No electric car park.
That's in Target.
Yeah.
In 5 years.
Yeah.
Any comments on any matter from the public? Any comment, public comment? Okay. Meeting minutes.
I'll move the minutes of, planning board minutes, was this a January?
July
18th.
Should be July
Second on the
18th.
minutes.
Oh, just a little typo there. July 18th.
We had a second.
Second?
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of July 18th, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Minutes are approved. Next meeting is August 15th at 3 PM. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Jeff,